There are a whole bunch of court decisions that are going to come down in the next few months that are going to impact the outcome of the 2024 election. Let's do this lightning round style. Paige.
Let's start at the top with the U.S. Supreme Court, South Carolina racial gerrymandering.
All right, you know how to bum me out by starting with the U.S. Supreme Court. South Carolina racial gerrymandering. This is a claim by black voters that Nancy Mace's district was drafted in a way to protect her Republican seat and disadvantage them. The U.S. Supreme Court's been sitting on this case for months. Unfortunately, I think that is a signal that we are not likely to get a favorable outcome, and certainly not one in time for 2024.
Trump's immunity claim.
Oh my God, what a hot mess that thing was. I mean, if you watch that argument, you would not have known you were in a courtroom. You would have thought you were in some Federalist Society sociology class at the University of Chicago. The conservative justices were all over the lot trying to predict why Donald Trump should be able to assassinate people and engage in a coup. I still think there's a compromise to be had there between the Chief Justice Barrett and the liberals. So I think no trial. It's going to delay the trial. We're not going to have that federal trial before the election. But I don't think the outcome is going to be as bad as people predict.
Let's get to the states. I'll give you a state. You tell us what we're watching, starting in Arizona.
Arizona, we're watching a ton of stuff. I mean, Arizona, there is more. If you go to democracydocket.com and you click on the cases page, there are more pending cases in Arizona than in any other state. The big issues there are the fights over the election procedure manual. The Republicans are literally trying to undo the rules of the road of how local election officials run their elections because they want there to be chaos. They want to make it harder to vote and easier to cheat. Having chaos makes it easier to cheat. The other thing is they want to make it harder for people's mail-in ballots to count by through their signature matching rules. That's the harder to vote part. That's what's going on in Arizona. Wisconsin, right? We finally get to the good news page. You start me with two hard places, and now we get to, a place where voting rights is improving. Voting rights is improving in Wisconsin because newly constituted majority on the Supreme Court is liberal rather than conservative. The Wisconsin Supreme Court's got a big oral argument coming up, I believe, in the next couple of weeks, and I believe they're going to restore the ability of drop boxes in Wisconsin. I also think you're going to see eventually cases move through that high court that are also going to make it easier to vote by mail.
Georgia,
look, we've been waiting for years on this SB 202 case to finally get cranking, and it is now cranking. SB 202 was the big voter suppression law in 2021 that Major League Baseball moved the All-Star game about. Corporate America was up in arms and then did absolutely nothing to make it better. But in any event, this is that big voter suppression law, and finally, I expect we are going to get a trial court decision from the district court on some aspects of it, particularly those that relate to absentee ballot applications and third-party voter registration groups. We've already seen some wins in that case, some disappointments in that case. I think we're going to get some more rulings.
Mark, your home state, New York.
New York, born and bred, native New Yorker, born in Manhattan, grown up on Long Island in Rockland County, went to college in upstate New York. Shout out to Hamilton. Okay, so here's what we need to know about New York. Number one, Republicans are continuing to try to do away with no excuse mail-in voting. It's really, it's actually an underreported story, given that it's the media capital of the world. You'd think it wouldn't be underreported, but oral argument was just heard in the intermediate court there. I don't think the court's going to give the Republicans what they want. So I think we're going to continue to have the law that expanded absentee voting in New York in place. But it's a canary in the coal mine. If they're spending money to challenge this in New York, they're doing it everywhere. The other thing you need to know about in New York is a lawsuit challenging that state's ban on food, providing free food and water to people waiting in line. That we should get a decision. The NAACP of Brooklyn, represented by my law firm, brought that case against New York. Why the hell is New York spending money defending that law? Somebody's got to ask that question. Paige, maybe that'll be you.
Mark, now to my home state, Texas.
Oh my God, Texas. Think about it. You've got Paxton and you've got Abbott. Every so often Paxton and Abbott get in a fight, and I'm like, okay, who am I rooting for here? Like literally, it's like Darth Vader and Darth Vader-er. Anyway, SB 1, which was their big voter suppression law, right? At the same time, the Georgia SB 202 was passed, SB 1 was being considered. That case, we are also waiting on a series of rulings from the district court on that range from things like ballot assistance, mail-in voting, voter outreach, polling hours, and whether they're going to allow election vigilantism. So lots going on in Texas on the voting front in court.
Florida,
SB 7050. This is not the law that was passed in 2023. Florida double dipped on voter suppression. They passed a voter suppression law, SB 90, in 2021, and then came back in 2023 with a new one. Now, the good news is SB 7050, the trial court blocked a whole bunch of provisions there. That's now up on appeal in the 11th Circuit. And so we will get a Court of Appeals decision there. That will really, really be important, because don't sleep on the state of Florida. The fact is, there is a critical ballot initiative in that state over abortion rights that's going to drive Democratic turnout up. Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis have still a Cold War between them. And we have a very, very competitive Senate race, and watch that presidential race.
Mark, now onto the states that people may not normally think of when it comes to voting rights. Maryland.
I mean, unlike New York.
Mark, we've said it so many times. New York has bad voting laws too. Some of the worst in the country.
I know. They really do. And what's up with that?
They have a Democratic supermajority, a trifecta. You would think they would pass new ones, but you would think. But we're in DC, so let's talk about our neighbor, Maryland.
Republicans are all in voter suppression in Maryland. Now, they're all in voter suppression in Maryland. They have brought a purge lawsuit in Maryland. Now, you hear about purge lawsuits, and usually you think places in the Deep South, but no. They're filing them all over the place, and they filed this in Maryland. Remember, they also recruited Larry Hogan to run for Senate in Maryland. The Republicans think they have a chance in Maryland, and they believe that voter suppression is an important tool in that. And so there is a motion to dismiss pending in that case. Don't sleep on Maryland. Pay attention to it. Democrats are going to win that race. Republicans, it's fool's gold for Republicans. But still, every time there is a voter suppression lawsuit, we need to be paying attention.
Going to the Deep South, Mississippi.
All right, Mississippi. There are two things to watch in Mississippi. I rarely say I'm jealous of other lawyers for their legal theories, but I said this on an earlier podcast. The legal theory that was brought and won before a panel of the Fifth Circuit challenging Mississippi's felony disenfranchisement provision under the cruel and unusual punishment provision of the Constitution. I thought it was brilliant lawyering, great legal theory, brilliant lawyering. They won a panel. Unfortunately, the full Fifth Circuit then took that case up for rehearing. We are waiting a decision. I am not optimistic. I think that is unfortunately going to get reversed, but still shout out to the lawyers who brought that case. The other case worth following is the Mississippi State legislative case. This is not about Congress, about state legislative districts. The trial decision we are waiting on a trial decision on the claims that the legislative maps violate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, basically diluting Black voting power. This is really important, not only for the legislative maps in Mississippi, but as you know, there's a lot going on right now about Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and courts jockeying around this. So this is definitely a case to watch.
Missouri,
there's a trial on their new photo ID law. I'm the lawyer who last argued successfully in the state of Missouri, in their state Supreme Court, striking down the last photo ID law. So I'm not involved in this one, but I am rooting them on from the sidelines. I got my pom-poms and I'm cheering them on.
Hawaii,
Ninth Circuit is set to rule on overseas voting of former Hawaii residents who have now moved to U.S. territories. This is not likely going to affect the outcome of any particular election, but it's a really interesting case, and it's worth following if you care about the broad application of voting rights. You know, these are folks who lived in Hawaii and have now moved to U.S. territories like Guam or American Samoa. I don't think they should lose their voting rights, but we're going to wait and see what the Ninth Circuit says.
And finally, Arkansas.
All right, so you heard me talk about SB 1 in Texas and SB 202 in Georgia. This was also a state that passed a mass voter suppression law, in the wake of 2021 and has since passed more voter suppression laws. And we are and by the way, most of these laws got struck down by a trial court. They got struck down by a trial court long time, years ago now. My law firm brought those cases. We are now waiting on a state Supreme Court decision. Boy, the wheels of justice turn slowly sometimes, Paige. We are still waiting on the state Supreme Court here. And by the way, in Kansas, same thing for the state Supreme Court there. In Arkansas, these are laws that change the signature match requirements, the early absentee ballot return deadline, created new photo ID laws and a line warming ban. So pay attention to Arkansas, and while we're at it, give some love to the good people of Kansas.
Mark, overall, what do you think people should be watching in May from the courts when it comes to voting rights?
Okay, so I wrote this in my latest Democracy Docket litigation look ahead. And if you have not already signed up as a member to receive those premium updates, I recommend you do it. And in the most recent premium newsletter that I put out, I talk about the need to think about voting rights right now and democracy as watching multiple screens. I got one screen. I got one screen on my computer. I only read one screen, and my son mocks me. You got to be able to watch multiple screens right now. What do I mean by that? You got to be able to simultaneously be watching what's happening in courtrooms in New York around Donald Trump, be watching the Supreme Court to see what's happening there, but also be watching what's happening in Wisconsin with absentee witness requirements, watching what's happening in Arizona around that election procedure manual, but also watching in New York and in Florida and in Texas and Maryland and Mississippi. You got lots of screens. I mean, you got screens and screens and screens because all of these cases are important. And all of these cases right now are pending before courts, and the future of democracy is on the docket in courtrooms around America. So make sure you are subscribed to Democracy Docket for free. If you can, add on a premium membership, you'll get additional insights. But go to democracydocket.com right now and click on the link. You'll be happy you did. All right, that's all the time we have. Thank you for watching our first ever lightning round here. We're going to do more of these, so make sure you are subscribed to this YouTube channel. But also, if you have a question, there's like some of you are like, I got a follow-up question about that thing that Elias said about this. Leave a comment in the below, and we will do Q&A sessions on this video series. But also, we do Q&As on Democracy Docket itself as part of our newsletter. So make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Make sure you're subscribed to the newsletters. This video is produced and edited by Ali Rothenberg, Gabrielle Corporal, and Paige Moskowitz, and is a production of Democracy Docket LLC.